What's going on, guys? Customer right here, and I decided to put this video together, hence why I'm wearing the same shirt as my other video, because a lot of you guys have been commenting almost in every single video. Gaston, which camera should I get? Should I get the Sony A7C? Should I get the Sony A7 IV? Which one is a better camera for myself? Now, one of the things that I want to tell you is that we don't know for a fact what any of these cameras are going to be or the features that these cameras are going to have. But taking in consideration all the rumors that we have been covering and all the information that's out there, I am going to give you basically the best case scenario for both cameras, all information coming right up. Welcome back to the channel, guys. Gaston right here, and if you're new to this place, I'm a photographer from Miami, Florida. I do gear reviews, tutorials, behind the scene, and I've been covering a lot of rumors. So if you enjoy this type of content, make sure to subscribe to this channel and don't forget to enable notifications for more content like this one. Now, we have both cameras from Sony. Both cameras are pretty similar, you know, in terms of what the rumors are saying. So in one side, we have the very first camera that we started covering, which is the A7 IV, which is the reiteration of the A7 III. We are assuming that that camera is going to have potentially the same sensor of the Sony A7 III. We're talking about a 24 megapixel sensor, but there have been some rumors saying that the camera may actually get a resolution bump in this new version. However, that rumor is not as strong, and I'm thinking that Sony is going to keep the 24 megapixel in this camera for some reasons that I'm going to be talking about in just a moment. Now, when it comes to video specs, I think this is where this camera is going to be a lot different than the Sony A7 III, because chances are that we're going to see 10-bit, 4K 10-bit in this camera. I don't think that we're going to see 4K 120. This is going to be actually reserved for the Sony A7 III, the much more expensive camera. But it's safe to say that this camera may do 4K video up to 30p, 10-bit 422 internal onto two SD cards. Now, I don't know if maybe Sony wants to include in this version the CF Express Type A card. That could be a possibility. But, you know, I would appreciate actually if they keep the SD card in this camera, in the A7 IV. Now, when it comes to autofocus, you know, we should expect the latest and greatest from Sony when it comes to autofocus. We also should expect an EVF with a better resolution than the Sony A7 III. What the resolution is going to be, I don't know, but, you know, think about this. The Sony A7S III, which is the latest video-centric camera, has an EVF that has almost 10 million dots of resolution. There's nothing like that out there, at least that I know, that can match that type of resolution. And that is a video camera. You know, chances are that a lot of people are not going to be sticking the eye that often as photographers. So this tells me that we are going to see on the Sony A7 IV an upgraded EVF. And it's actually due to be upgraded because the resolution of the EVF and the back of the screen is actually not that great on the Sony A7 III. And I think that's one of the things that camera is not as strong, because it is actually still a great camera today in 2020, the Sony A7 III. Now, when it comes to battery, we're gonna see the same MPF Z100 battery, which is, you know, the biggest battery that Sony offers right now in their photo camera. So this one is gonna give you plenty of recording time. We're gonna have microphone input, just like the Sony A7 III, headphone jack. And I don't expect this camera to be completely different, you know, in terms of shape and in terms of the feature, but I think where this camera is going to be very different than the Sony A7 III is going to be in the video department. And yes, we may also have a little bit better of dynamic range. We may have a new processor. So with this information, which is pretty much what the rumors are covering, and also we may see a new IBIS in this camera. This camera most likely is going to have the IBIS that we can find in the Sony A7 III. I haven't got my Sony A7 III yet, but I have seen a lot of video and actually a lot of people vlogging with the Sony A7 III. It seems to be very, very stable, nothing like the Sony A7 III. So that alone is going to make the Sony A7 IV one of the best buys when it comes to high-res shooting cameras. Now let's talk a little bit about the Sony A7 IV, because I need to give you the features that have been rumored in order to put both cameras on the scale. So what we know about the Sony A7C, The vlogging dedicated camera is that number one, this camera is going to have a smaller body, similar to an A6000 type of body. This camera may have or may not have an EVF, and if it has an EVF, it's going to be the little EVF on the side of the camera, just like the A6000 line. We are gonna see in this camera a flip out screen, and obviously, you know, Sony's aiming this camera to vloggers. We're gonna see the same flip out screen that we have in the Sony A7 III. Now, I forgot to mention, we also gonna see this flip out screen in the Sony A7 IV. It just makes a lot of sense for Sony just to roll out the flip out screen on all upcoming cameras. Maybe not yet on the APS-C cameras if they are planning to make more APS-C cameras. Now, the Sony A7C, it is going to be a compact camera aiming, aimed to vloggers, right? But here's the thing. Now, a lot of people thinking that, oh, but I don't vlog. But this camera is not going to be necessarily for someone that, you know, walks and talks to the camera. This camera is going to be a great camera for someone, you know, looking into do makeup tutorials, someone that does cooking tutorials, someone that has a travel channel, anyone that actually requires film themselves and operate the camera with ease. I think this is going to be the key of the Sony A7C, a camera that is going to be very simple to use, kind of like we have seen the ZV-1, where a lot of the menus actually have been changed and swapped to buttons, you know, dedicated buttons. We may see something similar like that in this camera. Chances are that we're gonna see the same big movie record button on the camera, you know, at the front. And, we're going to have an experience if you can actually combine, you know, what we have going on the ZV-1, some of the features of the A7 III, and, this camera is going to be much smaller in size. Now, in terms of battery, it is also a rumor that this camera is going to have the biggest battery, the MPFZ100. And, we may have also 4K video 10-bit. Now, that is the rumor, but I think that if Sony's actually trying to make some separation between a vlogging camera or a content creation camera and a hybrid camera, which, a hybrid camera is a great photography camera and a great video camera, which is the Sony A7 IV, chances are that they're gonna try to, define that pretty well, and we may see 8-bit, 4K 8-bit. And maybe one of the things that we may see in this camera, and this is something that I've been saying for a while, instead of like making this camera 10-bit, which actually I wish that Sony goes that route, but if they don't, if they do the camera 8-bit, maybe they can do 4K 60p, right, at 8-bit. I don't know. So we are gonna have to wait, and the announcement apparently is going to happen on the 15th, so we are, not too long ago from this announcement. And what is today? Today is so we're probably like 5 days away from this announcement. So hang on that. I would say, keep on waiting, keep watching the announcement. Now, with this information that I just gave you guys of both cameras, it's safe to say that if you're looking for the utmost, bang for your buck, probably the Sony A7 IV is going to be the camera, especially if you don't mind cameras a little bit larger than, an A6000. Now, if your thing is going to be portability, you're not going to be caring much for photography features, and although the Sony A7C is going to pack, I'm assuming incredible photography features, you're not gonna have, the higher resolution EVF, the larger EVF, and the much more ergonomic body. But, it's going to be a camera also capable of doing photography. That for a fact, we know that Sony's gonna do it. They have done it with the Sony A7 III. They have packed photography features in that camera, and they have done it with a ZV-1 as well, which is the camera dedicated for vloggers. But actually, it has incredible photography features similar to the similar to the RX100 Mark VII. So with that piece of information, it's gonna be a matter of how much is going to be the Sony A7 IV, because we were thinking that camera was going to be around $2,500. This is what I've been saying, but now we're learning that the Sony A7C is going to be at around 2,100 euros. That was one of the latest rumors, and 2,100 euros is actually almost $2,500, shy $2,500. So we may have a camera that is pretty similar in price, but maybe different in features, or the Sony A7 IV is going to be a much more expensive camera, maybe soaring the $2,800. And I think that if Sony puts a better IBIS, the flip out screen with touchscreen capability on the Sony A7 IV, and they gave us, better features, and some of the features that we have seen in the Sony A7 III, chances are that camera can be closer to the $3,000 than, you know, what it was the Sony A7 III, which was a camera that actually started at $2,000. With that said, I think that the Sony A7 III is going to remain at around that type of price. We may see a slight price drop. Maybe the Sony A7 III is going to be, you know, $1,800 after these cameras, you know, are announced. And we have seen the sales going on in the Sony A7 III. But yes, I mean, we could have a vlogging camera for over $2,000, which is the Sony A7C, which was called the A5 before. And we may have, you know, a better high-res shooting camera, a little bit more expensive, than the Sony A7 IV. So to sum it up, if you want vlogging, if you want ease of use, if you want to really allow the camera to do the most for you, probably the Sony A7C is going to be the camera for you, especially if you're going to be using it for content creation, and portability is something very important for you. Now, if you want a camera that you can do professional photography and a camera that you can do professional videos, most likely the Sony A7 IV is going to be that camera. But guys, until we don't hear from both cameras announcements, we're not going to be able to really assess the situation. Now, one thing that I can tell you for sure is that the Sony A7 III is going to be a better buy than ever before, because that camera is going to come down in price. And to be honest with you, we use it at the channel, we use it at work, and we really love that camera. You know, we really love working with that camera. Yes, it is 8-bit. Yes, you don't have the higher end video features that you have in the Sony A7 III, but how many people actually are requiring, you know, all that, you know, resolution, especially when your budget is only at around $1,800. So keep an eye on the Sony A7 III, because for a lot of people, that is going to be the camera to get. And I think that a lot of people are thinking already on departing from, you know, our current solutions right now, like the Sony A7 III, and thinking about the future. I'm planning to actually grab another Sony A7 III, because that camera is just incredible. It never let me down. It has a great autofocusing system, two SD card slot. It's a fast camera. It's a great camera for photography, and it's a great camera for vlogging as well. If, you know, you don't mind not looking at yourself, you know, in the end, you got to look at the lens. So guys, this is it. I put this video for you guys. Drop your comments down below. Let me know what do you think about these two cameras, what you're planning to do. And as always, guys, make sure to subscribe to this channel for more content like this one. And until then, see you on the next video. Take care.